Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, December 3rd. I was originally calling this morning Tariff Tuesday. I think it was more headline driven Tuesday. A lot of headlines, which were a little bit of distraction, but gave us a nice opportunity to trade a little bit more. We really haven't seen that much volatility over the last month and a half. This is good muscle memory to kind of remember what it's like to have a little bit of volatility. Remember, a little bit of volatility is usually the norm in the market, right? Things don't normally just go up or down in a straight line. So it's nice to have, in my opinion, some tradable entries, right, where we feel like we're finding some advantage a little bit in the market with a dip in some quality names, and also getting kind of, I don't want to say it's a free look, but it's a nice look to see when everything basically starts down around 1% on the day, what areas of the market are going to come back, right? We got a little bit of a hint with some of the names that we went over yesterday, so I'll dig into some of the performance. By the way, everything that we're going over today, of course, is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. You can see our disclaimer right here. But yeah, I called it day two of pullback, right? I think how we left off yesterday's video was, I was talking about how that we closed on the lows, which usually means there's some continuation to the downside. And we certainly got that. Pretty steep sell-off pre-market into the open. What I thought was pretty interesting, we'll just talk about the S&P chart for a second. This is something that we talked about pre-market. If you're a member of Tribeca Trade Group, you know that I send out a morning note just talking about some index levels to watch in the S&P. And one of the things that we talked about, I didn't put this out on Twitter because I just didn't want to the noise that came accompanied with it. I did put out a chart of the S&P and talked about the value worry for December. But this is what's known as the 80% rule. So I'll break this down for you just really quick if you're not familiar with this, right? When there is, and again, so what we said was price has fallen into value for the month of December. 80% rule has now triggered, which means I've moved all the way through the value area. So that's basically what the 80% rule means. It means if you start the month either above or below value, and you enter the value area and you firmly establish yourself there, there's an 80% chance that you go all the way through it. So we did that. I did not think that we were going to go through it that quickly, but when we were moving through, this morning, when we really started to sell off, I think I was saying, hey, we really don't have a lot of support. We took out some levels, right? I talked about the virgin point of controls. I thought really that would be, and again, that kind of helped yesterday because we closed here and we almost took it out. And I said, well, I'm not going to add much. I'm not going to really add anything at the end of the day because we haven't taken out those virgin point of controls. So we took those out. We had a small bounce in futures overnight, and then. And then we really started to accelerate and sell off. But yeah, this 3070 level was the exact level that we talked about in the trading room. And again, I didn't think that we were gonna get it all in basically 45 minutes of a move. But so that's done, right? So once we travel from one side of the value area to the other, which we did, we touched 3070 this morning. Then it was it, and then I kind of felt a little bit more inclined to buy the dip a little bit today, feeling that and again, trading is always about probabilities, right? So I thought it was just a better probability chance that we're going to hold that bottom of value and maybe bounce a little bit, if it wasn't for today, just going forward. And again, I don't know if we're completely out of the woods, but this 3070 level is definitely, I think, the level to watch in S&P futures. If you trade SPY or if you want a SPY level, it's going to be right around that 307 level. So 306.87 if you want to be precise, but you could see the hammer bar on that too. So again, ValueWare is really coming into play for us and helping us in our analysis. It basically just provides a roadmap. of where important levels are, where you could fall to when you've got some volatility. Also on the flip side, where you can rise to. I'll look at Shopify in a minute, which has been a trade that we've been. I will say that we've been crushing it with Shopify the last couple days. It's been my go-to name over the last week and a half, I'd say. What's funny is I was out to dinner with a member a couple weeks ago, and someone who's got a good couple of names that they're really good trading. And I said, you know what? I said this Shopify is something that I'm going to incorporate into our analysis. I might as well I'll talk about the rest of the sectors and where there was strength. But the Shopify, what a move today of 6%. So what we kind of used was, for some trades was this virgin point of control that was here. That was a good place, I think, again, just to kind of shoot for a target. And you could see we went higher than kind of digested. Also on the 1 hour, this was taken out. Was it taken out? It's pretty darn close. Right. So again, these things, once we got outside of value, it's just a great place to say, hey, this would be a great place to take a target. So we're almost there. So, maybe, again, just being, analysis, crystal ball analysis, which I don't have, but maybe this thing digests a day or two. But I think this is a great looking chart. Or I probably won't wait for that tomorrow. The only thing I have on is a cash trade. This is in the tactical Tribeca Trade Group tactical portfolio, which I don't mind showing this. This is what it looks like. We have this set up in motif investing, but you could see I'm now up in Shopify about 9% in this thing. So, and it actually outperformed a little bit today. But so again, just about up 10% since we put that trade on. Another one that I bought stock in yesterday was Anaplan, which had a nice day today. Not as great of a day, but this was one of the groups that was basically performed very well. If you look at the sectors, By the way, I don't think this opening price in the VIX is right because the VIX basically sold off throughout the day, but it still ended up, I think, up 7% for the day. And if you look at bonds, where's TLT? They finished up 2% for the day, so they were really strong. They only gave back a little bit of those gains. I want to look at a couple of these charts, and then we'll just continue to kind of go through the sector performance. I guess I could basically just draw this here. There we go. We've got a line here. So really easy level to watch if you're looking to get long bonds or TLT to see if this is a chart that I've looked at a bunch of times. I don't necessarily always trade TLT, but just kind of use that as a proxy because bonds affect so many things like banks and home builders and a few other groups of your defensives, your utilities. But and this is a chart that I tweeted out earlier, but we did not close outside of value. Again, why is this important when I talk about the value area? Because it's in range right now, and it is not above, above range, right? So it's still like I kind of refer to things here as being more choppy, and then this would be the breakout for the month. So we have not broken out yet for TLT. So something to keep an eye on, and of course, I would be happy to kind of go long bonds because that would be some good diversification for equities. But I'll wait until that happens. You can also look at the bond futures /CB. That also closed inside value as well, very similarly. So again, even though these are different durations, I know some people look at these bond futures and they think they're the same as TLT. Remember, TLT has a much smaller or much less duration than the long bond has, right? It's a what is the duration now of TLT? That is the duration is right around 20, which is what they call it. So a little bit shy of that. 19 is the duration. So that's much less than bond futures, which is 30-year bonds, right? So again, different portfolios, still treasuries, right? I also want to look at the VIX. You could see that you kind of have one of these toppy looking candles for the VIX today. I would think this would revert, or who knows, maybe it has inside day tomorrow and then kind of reverts back down. But one thing so far, and again, I would not 100% say that we're done with volatility for the week because nothing has really been. I think part of why we got the volatility in the first place was because of the trade negotiations, and we still don't know how that's going to remedy itself before December 15th, which the date is getting closer and closer. But for now, we have not made a higher high. Right now, this is lower, right? It's making a lower high right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, that's a pretty toppy looking candle when you've got that. But what I also like to see for confirmation, just to confirm, is for price to duck back under some of the shorter term moving averages, which we have not done yet. So I don't think you can completely rule that out. I wanted to look at small caps as well. They were actually out of the indices, they fared the best. Notice this gap has been filled, but only down 30 basis points. That's it for the small caps. So nice comeback for this group today. Again, also did not close above value, so to be continued on this one, right? So just like with bonds, no close above value, so still in the December value area. So, what sectors were the outperformers for the day? What really kind of came back strong? The solar names had a huge day, right? I've been looking at this TAN chart. I think did we have this in the? I don't think we had this in the. Uh, I don't think I had one of these in here for the weekend watch list that I sent out. Maybe I mentioned it in the video, but I did not put this, even though I talked about SEDG yesterday in the room, and I said basically it looked like it was trying to go, and certainly it did. So I think that's the best name. Remember we saw, and I think yesterday, a small buyer in First Solar. First Solar is kind of an underperformer, but there was a small buyer in First Solar. I don't know if this is because of this climate change, because we also saw Plug, which I believe is also an alternative energy name. We also saw a call buyer in Plug Power. But really, the solar names were on fire, literally, today. And I was a little bit late with establishing a position with SEDG because there's days like this, there's just a lot of movers going on, and clearly you can only trade so many of them. You only have capacity to trade so many of them, and Shopify was one of those trades that I did today. SEDG. I decided to go long the December 90-95 call spread, thinking that this maybe could get back to close to highs. And I put that trade on for $1.26, and it's marking at $1.60. So again, I was a little bit late, even though we found we talked about the chart yesterday. ENPH also had a nice day. Remember, there was an insider buy in this name. And then the healthcare names, again, very strong, right? I think also being helped because we continue to see deals within this group, but really strong to see XBI up 1.5%. Notice it's holding the gains. So I think very strong. Also, XLV looks pretty decently. We started to kind of go through some of the healthcare names. I traded the hell out of this INSEE about a week and a half ago, and it's holding gains in here. It does not look bad. Also, I was in some Lilly, and I rolled out. I had some profits in it and rolled out a small position. So this Lilly looks pretty darn good. The fact that it's just holding in here. IOVA, which is another name that's really strong, closed on the highs, 24.50 up 8%. These names, there's no doubt about them. They can move. Clovis finally a little bit tired today. Almost, I don't know if this is close enough to be taking out this VPOC here. Pretty darn near close, but down 28% today. So just remember how these these little biotech names move. They will have these rip your face off rallies, and then they will also be have the tendency to be elevator down when they lose momentum to them too. So we'll keep an eye on the biotech group, but that was again. I think just like I don't think it was yesterday, but I think it was a couple other groups yesterday. But you could see biotech was up there. Software, after software just seems to be one of the first sectors to go down because there is a lot of momentum in it. But IGV came back like a champ today, really strong to finish flat on the day. Still, Invet looks like it's closing right on the top of value. So we'll see how it goes. But I think you can kind of just pick. Shopify again, really great. Vive had a good day as well, finally coming back. I didn't see anything bad that they had in their quarter, so maybe a little bit oversold to the downside. This was up 2%. AYX, I think, had another big day. That finished up 80 basis points, but again, big move from the lows. And if you kind of look at my spreadsheet, I've got some software names in here. Okta had a big day. I mean, look at how many of these from the open. MDB, this is the name. This one I haven't been looking at, but yeah, if you took advantage and just kind of picked any one of these names, I think on the open to buy, you really did pretty well. And that's what we tried to do in the room today. What else, just to kind of round this exercise out? You could see a couple different healthcare ETFs I've gotten here. Aerospace and defense actually did pretty well today. GDX, of course, the gold miners. This is something that we participated in with WPM, but this was on the watch list going into the week. So really had a nice day, the gold miners. And I've been talking about this GDXJ in the last few videos that you've probably watched from me, but real nice move. I think this could continue to go higher. Again, I like when names like this, gold miners, have less correlation with everything else. It's good pretty good diversification. So nice move there. And the silver miners, I hit a couple targets in this one, even though it wasn't one of the better ones for the day. Still was up strong. Look at the PAAS, fared better, and also fared better yesterday too. So breaking out, is that 52-week new highs? It definitely looks like it. Really strong there in Pan American Silver. All right, so that's in terms of option activity today. To be honest, there wasn't anything all that great. There was some VMware, but again, you don't always need as I always say, you don't always need the option activity. It kind of helps, I think, if you're already in a trade. You can really catch some momentum to it. Roku was a name that we saw some calls at the end of the day yesterday. We also saw a little bit of calls today as well. This was a nice name today. Even gave you an opportunity in here to kind of get involved in the middle of the day too. But repeat Roku calls, again, not huge, but there was some activity into yesterday's sell-off. VMware, I did not take this trade. Again, I put all these option activity names into my filter. I think this name there's better opportunities out there, even though there was, I think, an April call buyer on the tape in VMware. Again, you have the ability to kind of wait for your pitch. You don't have to take every one of these trades, even though it was an aggressive call buyer. So many better opportunities in things that we don't see option activity in my opinion, just the way it works. What else? Banks really didn't move today. The FANG stocks did okay today, but again, the software names just had much better momentum. I traded Apple today. It just really didn't move. I was able to make some money in it. Here's my WPM trade that I mentioned. Here's my catch a falling knife trade in the SPX call spread, which I got out of at the end of the day. Here's the SEDG that we talked about later in the day, but again, we talked about that name yesterday. I traded a little bit of Vive, Shop, and then added to a couple swing trades, added to some ITB as well. ITB I put on, I talked about on Bloomberg last week. I think it's fine, right? Just give yourself a little bit of time. It did not break out on the first attempt, but it's still holding the 50-day moving average, which I think is fine. All right, so that's it for today's video. Sorry, a little bit longer. I like to keep these videos definitely under 20 minutes, but a lot of things to talk about. So, again, I think what we've talked about is just basically the last few days, one video I sent out, I think on Thursday or Friday or Wednesday or Friday, was talking about whether or not to have a hedge in place versus just reducing positions. That was something that I did at the end of last week. Instead of putting on a hedge, I decided just to reduce a lot of exposure. And that really helped me to be nimble today. Right. And I think at this point, even with having some longs on and getting caught in a couple long swings, my P&L's up for the month, up for December, in just the beginning of December. So very happy the way today went, and I think members, for the most part, had a good day. Lot of good day trading opportunities. All right, guys, have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow.